Hello, this is Amanda from Details Flower Software, and in this online tutorial video, I'm going to show you how to use the design board, the design worksheet, as well as some best practices. Before we get started, here's a quick overview of what we will be reviewing throughout this tutorial video. To access your event, you can simply click the event date or the event location on your event list. If that client has not been added yet, simply click the New Client button in the upper right corner. Today, we're going to be working on Oprah Winfrey. Once again, to access her event details page, I'm going to click the event date. We already have some information input within the event details page. You can access this page at any time, so if a time changes or by chance a location changes, you can go in and edit it here. Once you're done filling everything out, go ahead and click Save. And then I'm going to click right to the worksheet. So on your design board and design worksheet is where the bulk of the magic happens. This is where you get to pick your inspiration photos, build your recipes. This is really the meat and potatoes of that proposal, if you will. Before I get started placing in quantities, you might notice that you have an estimated grand total right at the top here. Now as I hover over, it's letting me know this is the total after fees and taxes. Where are these fees and taxes coming from? Well, for me personally on this account, I have my staff defaults turned on. If you recall, these defaults are automatic based off of what I have set in my back end. So right off the bat, I have $1,259 worth of event labor already added to this event. If it's too much, I can remove some. Let's say it's just 25 miles and so on. This portion automatically saves. If I had wanted to review the guests and partake in this really handy table calculator that we have, I can see I have my estimated number of guests carried over from that event details page. I can say Oprah is going to have a huge head table. We have 20 people there. And then otherwise, we're going to have 10 guests for the other tables. So I can see I have about 98 guest tables needed. Now I'm going to head back to that worksheet by clicking the line items button up at the top. One of the really beautiful parts of the worksheet is it can be used as a quick budget calculator. So based off of the quantities that this client wants and using our estimated prices, we can see if they are in line and realistic with the budget that they have given you, or if they even meet your minimum budget. So what we can do is click right within these little boxes here, and we're going to say, Oprah, she has one bridal bouquet. We're going to do one toss bouquet. We have 2 maids of honor. We have 4 bridesmaids. We have 2 flower girls, and so on down the line. And as you can see, it's taken my quantity and multiplied it by that estimated price. And now I have this general subtotal here. Now, once again, this doesn't mean that this bridal bouquet is going to sell for $300. It's just that average price, so it gives me that quick estimate. So right now I can see with my event labor and just these few items right here that I'm already up to almost $2,600. As I scroll down, I can continue to add in other items all the way down the worksheet. Now, this is where you really want to think about the line items that you offer. The more you have, the better ability you have to upsell to your clients as we're going through and taking a look. You know, maybe they didn't even think about it. You know, a gazebo. Oh, that seems wonderful. Let's add that on. Floral chandeliers, rose petal art, things like that. You can go ahead all the way down the line and fill in those pieces. Now we have our quantities in place. We have an idea of what we are going to be designing for this client. So now is a really great time to pick out our colors. and we have this really lovely color palette or color picker that was created recently. It's still a fairly new feature. To create my color palette, click the Colors button, and then I'm going to click this plus sign. Move the little circle around here. Move this bar so you can find the colors that you're looking for. For this event, it's a fall event. We're going to do some really beautiful, deep, rich colors. This is gorgeous. So I want to use this color. All I need to do to add it to my color palette is click anywhere outside of this box. So if I click here, there's my selected color. To add a new color, click the plus sign. And you'll see it's still on my selected color at this point. If it's something I'm going to use often, I can click Add to Favorites. I can also click Recommendations to see complementary colors. These are beautiful. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and just use these recommendations to fill this. Really deep jewel tones. Keeps it very easy. Lovely. Oh, I think I added the same color twice there. If you accidentally did that or added a color you didn't want, you can go ahead and click the garbage can to remove it. Now let's say I needed to match a color. What I can do, this is quite fun, is click this From Image button. I can go ahead then, upload a file from my computer. Let's see, I'm going to click this inspiration here. Let's say we're going to use this photo. Now all I need to do is hover over this image, and as you can see, I'm going to do this one, just a little bit brighter. Once again, click right outside of that box, and there's our color. Lastly, any favorites that you have will show up right here. Really common colors that you use quite often, such as those burgundies or blush colors, really wonderful to add in there. If you wanted to remove it, you could just click that color and click Remove Favorite. Say I was looking for a specific color, or a client came to me with maybe a Pantone color, such as blueberry. You can go ahead, type that right in. It will pull up that color and click off the page, and there it is available for you to use. As you notice, you can also use the hex HTML color codes or any of these other options right here. Back to the color palette, just a little note, if you ever are trying to find a color and you're having a little bit of trouble, I'm going to show you what happens here if you get stuck. Anytime this little circle is hugging the left-hand side, you're not going to be able to move this bar. It's going to bounce right back up to the top. So just make sure you move it just a little bit away from the edge there, and then you'll be able to move this around to find those perfect colors to create a color story for your client. Click off the page. I'm going to delete that one. Now that our color palette has been created, we know where to start with our design board. So this is the best practice. You go in, fill out the quantities, create your color palette, and now we're going to fill up our design board with anything and everything that we think we might use for this event. To add inspiration photos to my design board, I'm going to click this new recipe button. And what this does is it's just going to link right to my desktop. And now what I can do is bulk upload all of these photos by highlighting them all and clicking open. Back to our line items here. All right, now that all of our photos are loaded onto our design board, the next thing I'm going to do is go right over to the resources area. I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to click to my item gallery. Now, of course, I could go into my recipe gallery. That's where I would star any recipes that I have previously created to this design board. When you first open this up, it's going to load all of your items, and items includes blooms and greenery, vases and rentals, chairs, chargers, and so on. To filter, I'm going to click this filter search, and I'm going to click blooms and greenery, and now I'm going to choose the colors that I would like to search for. I am looking for some really deep purples. And in the future, I could search for red. Maybe I want to do all of them. Basically, you're going to check off all of the criteria you would like to search for. Go ahead and click Search Filter. And in just a minute here, we're going to see all of the purple blooms that I have. You can see I have 60 in my inventory. Now, as you can see, I can't really see a lot down here. What you can do is click Filter, Search again, and it's going to hide those filters. So now, really fun to do with your client is go ahead and star the blooms that you would like to use right to that design board. Now, as most of you know, I am not a floral extraordinaire, so many of these blooms probably would never go well together, but for the sake of the tutorial, we're just going to go ahead and click them so I can show you how to add them to your design board. Now, let's say you have added in a bloom and you actually didn't want to have this ranunculus on there. What you can do is click this little eye icon, and this is going to show you all of the blooms that you have starred to that design board. Now you can go ahead and click the star again, and it's now removed it from that design board. Clicking back to Filter Search, if I had wanted now to search for something else, let's say now I want to find maybe I'm going to do blues and greens here. We'll do blue, black, and green. I can click Search Filter again. So it's just going to take the criteria that I had just placed in. So you'll notice I already have some, this Calla Lily wine color. This is probably color coded as black as well. So when you're adding in items, you can color code with as many colors as you want so it pulls it up. Yeah, this is beautiful. I'm going to add in just a few more items here. Now, does this mean that I have to use them within my recipes and my event? Absolutely not. Does this mean that they're going to show up on the proposal? Only if I use it within a recipe or if I choose this specific item to show within that proposal. I feel like I've added a good amount of blooms here. I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to click to, whoops, not the wrong one, uncheck blooms and greenery, uncheck green. If I had more to uncheck, I could go ahead and just click this clear search too, but I'm just going to go ahead and check. Now I'm going to do my vases and rentals. So once again, you can go through all of the different item types and add it to that design board. We are building an event. We are building a feeling, a story. So going ahead and just getting all of that complete from the start is really great to do. We have really dark, rich colors. I'm going to add those along. These could be fun to use. I'll also add in these. Oprah would probably faint if she saw what I was adding to her wedding. Anyway, to review what you have added to your design board, you can use, again, these up-down buttons here too. If I go into my miscellaneous items, we're going to find things like our oasis bricks, baskets, copper wire, all of those candles, things like that. So we're going to go ahead and just add those too. Once again, click the filter search to go ahead and hide those filters so they're not in your way when you're going through. Do these two. All right, so we have a fair amount of items on our design board. So now what I can do is click back to that worksheet, and now I can start creating. So I'm going to show you line items two ways. Both of them work for the proposal. And if you're used to sending an estimate to start out with, this first way that I'm going to show you is a really great start to that proposal. So let's say we are doing our bridal bouquet here. So I can take this recipe or this inspiration photo that I have uploaded, and I'm just going to click it, and I'm going to drag it right over to this bridal line item. You could see how there was that plus sign there. I have a one quantity, it's in at $300. Let's just say for this bridal bouquet, we're going to quote, you know, it's Oprah, we're gonna say $350. As I click off, whoops, ooh, you see what happened there? It bounced back. So really important to note, if you would like your custom prices to stick, make sure you lock it first, and then you can type in your custom price. So at $350, we're going to say this is a big, beautiful, and lush bouquet filled with deep, rich colors. You can also go in, add in maybe a few of the floral varieties that you will be using for this bouquet as well. Something else you can do that adds a really nice touch is name it Oprah's Bridal Bouquet. It's going to show up this way on the proposal. And at this point, we could say that this line item is complete. We'll go ahead and close that one out. Now, something else you can do is actually build the recipe itself. Let's use this same photo here just as an example. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drag it over to the maid of honor here. They're going to have something fairly similar. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to lock in my custom price and say these are $200 each. And we can write in any notes as well. We'll do maid of honor bouquets will be there to the bridal, but a bit smaller in size. And there we go, we have that recipe as well. Now, let's say, you know, we sent this estimate off and now it's time to place those ingredients within the recipe. We're coming back to the design board. I'm going to go ahead and open up this recipe. Make sure you unlock it, because when it's locked, the price is going to stay at that $200 that I have placed in there. So I'm unlocking, and now all I need to do is start dragging in my ingredients. We're going to use some of this, some of this, and as I keep going, once again, I know these would probably, no, not probably, they would never be used together in a bouquet, but more importantly is knowing what's happening. So we can see that I'm adding in these ingredients into my recipe. We can see that the quantity multiplied by that cost and the markup I have set in the back end is creating this price for me. So I know I locked in that price of $200 or $250, and now I'm building to get up to that quoted price. It might be a little bit more, it might be a little bit less, but we know what we're shooting for. So again, go ahead, add in your ingredients. I can do the plus or minus to update my quantities. I really enjoy just going and typing over. It's a little bit faster for me. And we can see that we can really just keep going here. We can shoot to the moon and back. For the sake of this video, I am going to go ahead. We are at $97.80. At this point, you can go ahead and lock it. We always recommend, a best practice is locking in your prices. Once again, this keeps it from automatically updating. Now at this point, I can either use this $97.80 or I can round up to a cool even $100. Feel free to name it, personalize it. It's a lovely touch. Otherwise, you can opt to use this recipe number right here. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at this description here, we can see that we have all of our ingredients that we've added has been automatically populated within the description. Our notes are always going to stay. If you wanted to remove the description, say you don't want these specifics showing on the proposal, you can go through and delete it. It's just important to note as soon as you add in a new ingredient into this recipe that it's automatically going to populate. So when I add these anemones, you'll see that that description has been added back. So important to note there. What you can do is then go through all of your line items that have these quantities in here. Go ahead, carry over those inspiration pictures. You can add in your blooms and greenery. For example, let's say our flower girls here, we don't have an inspiration photo for that. So what I can do is just take what I'll be using and drag over that item. The first image is going to be the photo that you first dragged over. You can click to upload if you would like to use a different image at this point in time. Again, any notes that you would like to add, maybe you want to put in quantity of petals for the flower girls, anything that you want to share, these notes do show up on the proposal. So and the recipe PDF. So any special design notes, or if you're in a bouquet and want to be very adamant that this client does not like roses of a certain color, so you are all on the same page. It really shows that you are listening and communicates those specific details. Now, before we finish up this video, I do want to show you some very specific rules to saving a recipe that you have created. And I'm going to show you on the boutonnieres here. So I'm going to scroll up and I'm going to take this inspiration photo of a boutonniere. And I'm going to drag it over to the groom. A really lovely thing about details is you are able to add in decimal amounts. So let's say we are using this bay laurel. I'm going to go ahead, drag that over to where it says add item to recipe, and I'm going to do 0.1. The software knows, and on that cost page, when you look at your stem count, it will tally everything up correctly. So we have our bay laurel in there, and then for this one, we're actually going to use these orchids here. So just 2 items. I'm going to do half a stem there. Now, oftentimes with boutonnieres, even with a higher markup, you're still getting a very low price point for that. So I'm going to lock this in, and I'm going to make this $20. Again, add in any notes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this boot. And I am going to select my recipe category here to boutonnieres. And I'm going to click this show in recipes to yes. Now what this has just done is it's saved this copy of this recipe and it's added it to my resource recipe gallery. So I'm going to close this off and I'm going to head right up here and click to recipe gallery. All I need to do is click the star, just like I did with my other items, and now I can head back to the worksheet. So basically what we're doing here is we saved a recipe and we're going to reuse it on the worksheet. Now I can go through, I see I need 2 fathers, 2 ring bearers, and I can take this recipe. You'll notice I have 2. I can see this one has a generic recipe number. If I click it, there's no ingredients in here. If I hover over this one, I see it's Oprah's boot. If I click it, I see I have my ingredients. So I know this is the one I need to drag over. I can drag it right to fathers. It'll lock in at that price that I locked in the initial one, and it copied all of those ingredients over. Same thing, go ahead, drag it to ring bearers. Now one thing that I most definitely want to do is click this show in recipes to know. Otherwise I might end up with a lot of duplicated recipes in my resource gallery, and I don't want that. So when you're reusing a recipe, make sure you click that show in recipes back to know. You'll also notice that this went in not as Oprah's boutonniere, but as a generic recipe number. When you drag a saved recipe over to a new line item, it's reading it as a brand new recipe. Now, the beauty of this is now I can go through and let's say I wanted to make this, just a little bit more. I could. Again, important to note, I have it locked in at $20, which is why we weren't seeing a change. More than likely, that minimal change would still make it less than $20. So I'm not going to unlock it for this specific one. Now, even with this change, I can go into my father's or the groom's, and I'm going to still see I have the same quantity there. However, this is the most important part. If I go into the groom, my template that I had created directly on the worksheet to use in other line items, and if I change a quantity in here, so let's say these orchids, this is excessive. You would never use 2 stems of this as a boutonniere, but just to show you, I'm changing that to 2 stems. Now if I go, I'm going to close this out and I open up this ring bearers or the fathers, you'll see that that has adjusted to 2 stems as well. So think of the groom, this is the parent. If you make any changes to the parent, it will make a change to your children recipes, which would be in this case the father and the ring bearer. However, since the ring bearer and the fathers are their own separate recipes, I can manipulate them any which way I want, and I don't have to worry about them impacting one another. To finish up here, we're going to close this out. You'll go through, make sure all of your line items are locked in, and then you would be ready to move on to the next portion of creating your beautiful proposal. Thanks for watching. Once again, if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to contact us via the support page, give us a call, or email us support@detailsflowers.com.